So we're starting with a short meditation. So please sit comfortably. So the important point is to have the back straight and that there's no tension in your muscles. And at the beginning you don't do anything special. You just relax. You let the energy settle. So now imagine that the space in front of you is pervaded by blissful energy of peace, light, loving kindness. So all the enlightenment qualities that you can think of, imagine them, that the space in front of you is full of that energy. So like the omniscient mind of the enlightened beings pervades all phenomena. So it's right there in front of us. And if you like, you can visualize beings of light sitting in that space with light bodies, blissful rainbow-like bodies. So you can visualize the Buddha or whoever you feel a connection with, or simply visualize the space full of blissful light. And as you inhale, you imagine inhaling this blissful light coming either from the space or from the heart of an enlightened being. And with each inhalation, you fill your body with light. And you imagine that that light enters in each cells of your body, healing whatever physical problem you might have, and appeasing your mind of all turmoil, and bringing peace and light within you. So more you inhale light, more the cells of your body become full of light. And imagine that that light increases the vibration of the cells of your body, so that your ordinary body gradually transforms into a rainbow-like energy body, a light body. More you inhale light and bliss and peace, more your body transforms into the same energy. And you imagine the light becoming brighter and brighter, And you imagine that your body dissolves into light, so that the space outside becomes the space inside. There's only the breathing left, the inhaling of light, going from outer space to the inner space of awareness. Try to imagine your mind blissful and clear, bright light, and very expansive, vast as the sky. And whatever thought or mental image arises in your mind, try to see them that they are in the nature of awareness itself, in the nature of space. They arise out of space, they are in the nature of space, and they dissolve back into that space of awareness. So they are like rainbow energy. They are transparent, they have no essence. And you mainly concentrate on the fact that the mind is like space. You try to make it as bright light as possible, and that bright light of the mind is the nature of bliss. All right. Have we been meditating? What do we think in the West is meditation? Just sitting somewhere, So when we see somebody there, sitting like that, I think, oh, he's meditating, right? But if I'm sitting like that and I'm thinking, oh, what I'm going to have for dinner after, and where I'm going after that, and tomorrow what's going to be my day, is that meditation? Or sometimes you see a person, walking back and forth, the hand behind his back like that. And he's grumbling about something, he's meditating, or walking in circles, Or some people, like to meditate laying on an easy chair, with a newspaper open like that. Kind of like that. Or laying on the beach, afternoon, with the soda, the straw. Or some people like meditating while hiking, or running, So meditating is not necessarily something to do with the position of the body. It has more to do what you do with your mind. So you can be meditating lying on your bed, or on the beach or walking around. So what's your definition of meditation? What do you think meditation is? Is meditation, I think often in the West we have this connotation of meditation, something which is supposed to bring a more peaceful mind, that you just, bring some inner peace, some, relaxation, I think that's what we call meditation, At least we try, sit there and we try to, It looks so peaceful, somebody sitting there meditating, we don't see what's happening in his mind, But at least the body looks pleasantly peaceful, sitting there, isn't it? So usually the definition of meditation is familiarizing the mind with something that is positive. So it's actually, it doesn't matter so much the position of your body, it's familiarizing your mind, acquainting your mind with something which brings peace and happiness. So that's what the definition of meditation is, right? So if I sit here and I think about the dinner I'm going to have after, or the walk I'm going to make, and things like that, that's not really meditation, right? So I try, but, unsuccessfully, right? So that's not really meditation. So I think the first level, of meditation is simply to become aware in a neutral way how we are. Often we have a kind of image of who we are. We kind of, our ego has a kind of a self-image of who we are. And some people have very slow self-image and they think they are. Other people think they are great, but they themselves have such a low self-image, So, to recognize what kind of self-image one has, right? And then also see how other people see us, you know, what kind of projection they have upon us, you know, which often is very far from who we think we are, right? And then is to recognize the states of mind in us which are happy, which are peaceful, that we enjoy, the aspects of us that brings us pleasure, that brings us peace and joy and self-confidence, and to cultivate these states of mind, you know. And then if we recognize some negative state of mind like jealousy, like pride, like envy, you know, you see, this kind of emotion are like acid in the mind. They eat us up from inside. You know, outside we look fine, but when these emotions arise in our mind, somehow they, you know, they eat us up like some kind of corrosive acid inside. You know, they spoil the whole experience. You know, the peace is gone, the joy is gone, because this negative mind arise, right? So meditation is to become aware when they arise. You know, you see, for example, when we get upset, to recognize, oh, now I'm upset. You know, instead of recognizing now I'm upset and that upsetness makes me boil, you know, like boiling water inside, you know, instead of recognizing, often we justify it. You say, you know, but I have to be upset because such and such reason, right? So I'm right to be upset. But yet we don't recognize that the upset mind makes us unhappy right there, right? And often you will see that, you know, the fact of being upset doesn't help at all in the situation to solve it, you know. Like Shantideva said, you know, why get upset about something if you can change it? You know, if you can change it, you just change it. You know, just do what you have to do. And if you cannot change the situation, why get upset? You know, it doesn't benefit, right? So it is to recognize the negative state of mind when they arise, and then to apply, instead of indulging and cultivating them, applying an antidote, you know, decreasing their intensity or the duration in which they take hold of our mind. You know? And meditation also is to be, in everyday life, to be mindful of one's activity of the body, you know, how we move around. You know, if we move the furniture very noisily around, you know, it creates a lot of noise, a lot of disturbance. Whereas if we move the furniture gently, we close the door instead of slamming them, you know, it creates a kind of peaceful, gentle atmosphere. Right? So this is meditation, you know, being mindful of how we move our body, you know. So often we justify being late, you know, but suddenly becoming quite rough, you know, because we're late, you know, we start slamming things and being in a hurry, you know. So that's, you see, if we do that, we get out of our center. You know, and then the slight little thing which come in our way because we're impatient, then we get upset and angry, right? So it starts with, you know, this little thing of being late is the root cause from getting upset, you know. So it's better to wake up a little bit earlier, you know, and take, you know, and take things, you know, as they come, you know, then it's easy to be patient, you know. But if you're late, you know, and you have an appointment, then anything that comes in your way, you know, very quickly become impatient, you know, the traffic, anything, you know, and then you get upset, you know, and then with that upset mind, there's no peace, there's no joy, you know. I think nobody has joy when he's upset, you know. You cannot even rest properly, your mind, you know, you cannot fall asleep when you're upset, because the mind goes, you know, in all directions. And another meditation, if one can do, which is very powerful, You see, if you concentrate on love as your main meditation, you see, if you try to cultivate a state of loving kindness towards all living beings, right? If you make that your main meditation, while you are in that state of mind, you cannot get upset, right? You cannot get angry, you know, because angry, being upset is the opposite energy of love, loving kindness. So if you're in a state of loving kindness, naturally you're patient. Naturally you won't get upset. Naturally you won't have ill will for people, right? So this is the most joyous state of mind to be in, you know, is in this, to be in state of love for all living being, you know. So that's something that one has to cultivate, one has to train. But that, if you are in that state of mind, you have a very nice self-image, you're at peace with yourself, you're joyous, you know, you have that warm heart just feels your soul, you know, your inner being, and it's so nice, so cozy, so comfortable, you know, and whoever you come in contact with, they enjoy your presence, you know, you're a nice person to be with, you're joyous, you're fun, you know, so people enjoy you, you know, so you have a lot of friends, you know. So, and you see, it's very difficult to get upset or angry at a person that is lovable and kind. So if you're lovable and kind, you know, people will enjoy you. You will have many friends and very few enemies, you know. So this is really, I think, as a basic practice in everyday life, that's the best emotion, the best meditation to cultivate, you know, because this will solve so many of your problems, you know. All the rest, all the other problems dissolve, you know. If you have a loving, kind mind, if you make that as your main practice, you know, all the other problems dissolve, you know. And when you have a loving mind, you have contentment, you're happy with yourself, you know, and then you take what comes along, you know. So, how to bring this about? First is a question of priority. You know, what's the purpose of our life? You see, when the topic was, you know, meditation and the spiritual path, you know, so one has to understand what's our spiritual goal. You know, what do we aim at? You have to ask yourself the question, where does my life go? What's the purpose of my life? What do I live for? What's my aim? What's my goal? You know? You know, is it to make a lot of money, to have a good career, a nice job, to have a family, to have, you know, to have a nice house? You know, what will bring me satisfaction? I think we all know that, yes, it's nice to have material things and this and that, but they will never bring us inner satisfaction, you know. I mean, it could always be a bit more, a bit better, you know. It's never 100% the way we would expect it, you know. You know, we enter into a relationship or a job, or we buy a property or a car, and at the beginning it's all exciting and new, but after a while, you know, nothing is completely perfect. You know, the car could always be a little bit like this, you know, and the house a little bit like that, you know, and the friend a little bit like that. You know, we want to change his mind, his personality, you know, to adapt to our ideal of, you know, how he or she should be, you know. So, you see, although we enjoy things, it could always be better, you know, it's this frustration of this always could be better, you know. So I think the first realization in spiritual path is to realize that it's never going to be perfect. You know, that there's no situation, no partner, no car, no house, no job that is perfect. You know, so to seek for the perfect partner, the perfect car, the perfect house it will never work. You know, even if you would live 1,000,000 years, you will not achieve it. You know, and our life is so short. You know, so much of our problem comes from this unrealistic expectation. You know, and we work so hard. We make so many plans and enter in so many activities in order to gain that, you know, that happiness, you know, that we seek out there. You know. And once you realize that's an impossibility, you know, that nobody, you know, I mean, if you would have the perfect partner, how would he or she be? You know, he or she must be a Buddha. He or she must have no mental affliction at all, no selfishness, no attachment, no anger, no pride, no jealousy. You know, no past, no conflicting past, you know, no karma in the past which makes you, you know, I mean, you know, that's how the person should be, right? You know, the car should always be new, like fresh, like on the first day, you know, never need any gas, you know, never had to go to repair, you know. You know, so we live in our head, we have a kind of fantasy world, you know, that we wish to make our reality, but it's impossible. That world exists only in our head, it's not a reality. And if one lets go that expectation, that fantasy, suddenly you discover something very precious, which is contentment. Suddenly you become grateful of what you have. You don't look at what you miss, you appreciate what you have. You know, oh, actually, you know, I have this body, you know, I'm quite healthy, you know, I'm still alive, you know, I can enjoy. You see, there's a precious gift that we have in life that we don't recognize. You know, the bare fact of being alive, to exist. You know, the beauty of being able to feel, to have emotion, to be able to see, to hear, to smell, to taste, to touch, to be able to love. You know, it's so beautiful to exist. You know, not to be a rock. You know, something which has, you know. No, we exist, we are aware, we are conscious. Fantastic. You know, is that so beautiful, you know? I always remember that stories of Plotinus. You know the philosopher, the Greek philosopher Plotinus? You know? He was with Alexander the Great in school with him, right? And Alexander went with all his adventure around the world, you know? And he came home to his town, I don't remember where, Constantinople, I don't know where was his capital, and he inquired about his old friend Plotinus, you know, which was his buddy at school and was very smart, you know. I inquired about him, where is he? Oh, you don't want to know about him, you know, but oh, he turned very bad, you know. I think he lives down in the port, you know, in the harbor, you know, oh, you don't want to know, you know, oh, forget about him. No, I want to know, it's my good friend, Plotinus, you know, things like that. So he went down to the harbor, you know, with his guards and things like that. And somebody told me, oh yes, Plotinus, he lives there, you know, in that cave over there, you know, near the beach, you know. And so the guards of Alexander, you know, come and you know, they stand up like that and say, oh, here is Alexander the Great coming, you know, so expecting Plotinus to stand up and, you know, show respect to the emperor, you know, Alexander the Great. And Plotinus is there, you know, lied back, He has his dog nearby, and laying there on the sun. And then he doesn't move at all, not at all impressed by all these guards and things like that. But he just looks, it's you, Alexander. How are you? And then Alexander speaks to him all his great adventure, all what he did around the world, all the country he visited and his exciting life and being now an emperor. And he said, why don't you join me? I can give you a property, a country to rule and this and that. You can have great fun, have an exciting life, And Plotinus just says, no, I don't need anything. I'm completely satisfied here. I'm laying here, I'm so happy. You cannot imagine how happy. I have everything I need. I have nice dog as companion. I have my little food. I have my little cave here. I'm completely content, completely satisfied. I don't need anything. So Alexander was, but you, my good friend, what can I do for you? Please tell me, what can I do for you? I want to help. How can I do for you? And Plotinus, I will think about it. I don't see anything, really anything you can do for me. And oh yes, there's one thing you can do for me, actually. Move a little bit, you're on the way of the sun, So, So I think this story has a little bit a message. You see, Alexander the Great, although he had all these things, but because of pride and wanting more and more and more, how big can your empire be? You never have enough. It can always be bigger, right? But if you have contentment in your mind, you're satisfied with what you have, And like Nagarjuna said, the greatest possession in life is contentment. If you're content with what you have inner peace, you have inner joy, You see, no matter how much we have or things we enjoy, it never lasts. You see, Buddha didn't invent impermanence. There's a fact of life that things don't last. Things are, sadly for us, impermanent. It's a fact of life. So things don't last, right? So no matter what you acquire, no matter what type of relationship, no matter what we do, we have to let go. Right? So impermanence would always win in the end. We can, you see, that's the sad thing of life, is that we have to die, and no matter our relationship, the friends, the possession, even our knowledge, everything we have to leave behind. Right? So the stronger our grasping, the stronger our attachment, the more suffering we have. So the more we can let go, the less we have attachment, the less we crave and grasp onto things, the more inner peace we have. Especially, always looking outside for happiness distracts us from the most important job, is that we have a fountain of bliss in our heart, There's pure bliss in us, but we always look for outside, and if we are left alone, we feel miserable, right? Yet, within us, our mind is fundamentally pure. We have Buddha nature or God nature or Jesus nature, whatever you want to call it. That thing is in us, right? But we never look there. We always look outside for fun, You see, we are so addicted to activity, is that when you have a moment, free time, you feel uneasy and you feel it with a lot of stuff. We cannot just stay without doing anything. We have to fill our time with, doing this and that. We are so restless, So our mind is like a body of water is constantly agitated, Even if we don't have to do something, actually we freak out if we have nothing to do. We call friends, let's do something, let's go for a hike, let's go for this and that. We cannot just sit there and do nothing. And yet, you see, one activity leads to another, another, and it's endless, right? And we never find any inner peace, any inner satisfaction. Yes, there's excitement, there's pleasure, but it's so short-lived, and then, we try to go from one top of the wave to the next, Most people which work, they are miserable at work, and they look for the weekend, So they have great excitement the weekend, and then Monday they already make plan for the next weekend. What they're going to do the next weekend. The whole week they live for the weekend, And where does that lead? All these activity, where does that lead us? Nothing goes beyond death. All what we create, all our activity, all our relationship, you die, you cannot take anything with you. Not a single person, not a single object, nothing. You have to go along. The only thing that goes with you is your state of mind. Right? So if you have a happy, peaceful state of mind, that's what you take with you. If one's mind is agitated, with a lot of craving, a lot of, stuff in it, well, that's the type of mind we take with us. So, you see, once you realize what life is about, you see that the quality to work on having a nice mind is the most important job in life. Because that's your innermost possession. Nobody can take your mind away, But you have to live with it. You cannot escape your mind. There's nowhere you can go to hide from your mind. There's no mountain high enough, no ocean deep enough where you can go away from your mind. There's nowhere, either you enjoy your mind, you enjoy yourself, and you're happy, wherever you are, but you cannot escape from your mind, So we have no choice. It's to become friend of it, to understand it, and to transform it into something good, in something pleasant. So when one understands, that we are never going to be fully satisfied with things outside, then suddenly we let go of our craving of looking for this and that, and then you relax and you enjoy what you have, or I have this body, nice weather, especially here in California. We're quite, blessed with a lot of nice things. Just walk on the beach and enjoy the sun. Look at the flowers. Now is springtime. That, it's almost, you don't need a private garden. You just go to walk in a park. The other day I went to the park where there's a lot of roses over there in San Jose. I was thinking, if that would be my garden, I wouldn't need so many people to work for me for entertaining this garden. I would have to work so much for taking care. Now this is public garden. It's like my garden. I don't have to work for it. I just enjoy it. It's kind of nice. So it's almost like the whole environment, the whole forest, everything is your property. You don't need any personal little garden. Then you have to worry about it and work for it. You just can go out there and walk in nature, and enjoy it. And if you have a warm heart, if you're kind, if you're friendly with people, you will have many friends. Because people you see, we all like people which are friendly, smiling, good mood. So of course we are like honey. We attract people. People get addicted to nice people. So you have many friends. If you have contentment, if you're happy, and you have a warm heart, you care for others, you're gentle, then that attitude attracts goodness in your life. But if you always son, you make a face, and you're uptight and you have no time for people, well, only your relative come to see you. Your friend, they lose interest after a while. Why bother? I mean, everybody wants to have fun. So if you're not fun, people, they don't like to hang out with you. That's the way it is. So I think contentment is really a great treasure, and you don't need to do anything. You just need to realize what life is about. That you're never, the frustrating nature of samsara, of cyclic again, is that things don't last. So just relax and enjoy what's there. And then to generate a warm heart, the best way to go about it is to remembering constantly the kindness of others. To remember, that you were born like a small baby. You didn't have anything. You were lying on your back, with the hand. The only thing you could do is cry. And your mommy had to understand what your crying meant, whether it would mean that you need to scratch in the back, or whether you're hungry, or whether you need to go to the toilet. No way, the only thing we knew was how to cry, and make little face, that's all. So from then on we learned, to walk, to eat, to speak. All this is due to the kindness of others. Now as adults, we feel like self-confident, that we are independent, but all this, what we are, came about through the kindness of others, especially our parents, and then our teachers, our friends, our buddies in school, So all what we are, we often think, we're self-made, but it's not true at all. What we are is just due to the kindness of others. We can take cars, enjoy roads, We have our meals, our clothes, our house, but all these other people have to do work for it, right? This house hasn't happened by itself. Some people had to sweat, to make this place, and we are able to enjoy it, right? So, more you think about the kindness of others, the kindness of the bed in which you sleep, the kindness of the people which offer you a job, of the roads, of the car, of your friends, of your parents, your children, all the things that you can enjoy on an everyday basis. If you remember, how nice they are, how nice that these things exist. So suddenly you feel a kind of connection. You feel connected. That we are all interdependent. And that interdependence feels that you suddenly care for their well-being too, because you realize that your happiness depends upon them. You see, whatever trick works for you to get a warm heart, that you see, your most precious possession in life is to have a warm heart. If you are able to open your heart and feel the pleasure, the joy it is to have a warm heart, if you compare that to other things, you will see that no matter what you have, if that is missing, you don't enjoy. No matter what party you go to, no matter how many possessions you have, if your heart is dry, you don't enjoy. And even if you do something very simple, you sit on the beach, but you have a warm heart, you enjoy yourself. So that, you see, so your priority in life is how to get a warm heart. What trick works? What triggers in me this warm heart? How can I stay in that state of being where I always have a warm heart? Where I can look at people with eyes smiling with love. How can I be in that state of being all the time? So that's, you see, that will really fulfill your life. So there are many methods for that. So you have to find what works for you. So one way is constantly to remember the kindness of others. Or if you have a good time with somebody, with your partner or with a child or with your parent, you have a moment where you have this feeling of affection arising naturally due to your daily life. Then you transfer that experience to each and other living being you encounter that day. You say, okay, that person was so kind with me, but it could have been this one, it could have been this one. You transfer the same emotional state to each and other living being you encounter. So, you see, the point is, we have this experience of love and care, but it's so limited to a few individuals in our life, right? So we have to be able to expand that and make that for each and every living being. We have to be in the same state of love as we are for a partner or somebody we like. We must expand that and put the same intensity of love to each and every living being. You transfer that emotion to each and every living being. It's possible. It just needs training. Why? Because you see, all living beings have this Buddha nature. They have this. Their mind is actually fundamentally is pure. They are good beings. If they are screwed up, if they're messed up, it's because of circumstances. But deep down, they are like oneself. They just want to be happy. There's no difference between my wish to be happy and their wish to be happy. And you see, even somebody, which superficially we don't like and creates trouble, but even that person you can find something positive. One thing that amazes me in life, how many are we on this planet? What, 6 billion by now? Despite with 6 billion, we all unique. You know, each one is unique. You don't find two people same. You know, and that's so beautiful to see this diversity. You know, is wow! I'm just amazed. You know, to meet somebody new, to discover a new person. Wow, it's so beautiful. You know, such a treasure. You know, it's kind of, you know, there's no mold. You know, we don't come out all of the same mold. Each one is unique. You know, and if you look at people from that perspective, you know, you can. Actually, it's fun to discover somebody new. You know, who are you? What's your trip? You know, where? You know, from which planet do you come from? You know. Okay. 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 You wanna have a break? Or as you like. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So let's do 5-minute break. So I think I just want to say maybe speak 10-15 minutes more, and then open to question answer. You know, I want you to disagree with me, and then, you know, we can argue. You know. So. But, you know, from my experience, you know, I think this thing of contentment, you see, even with the spiritual life is the same. Your meditation could always be better. There's no end. You know, you can be as miserable as a meditator as a normal person. Because a meditation could always be better, you know. So you're never satisfied with your meditation. You know, if you don't let go expectation, if you don't relax, you don't enjoy your meditation. Because it could always be better. You know? So the contentment, to know that you're never going to get all what you want, you know, and to relax and enjoy what you have. So you enjoy the meditation as it is. Oh, good enough. You know, oh, I get some inner peace, you know, some inner satisfaction. Good enough. Thank you so much. You know, if you have that attitude, you start enjoying your meditation. You know? And then, in terms of the good heart, if you put the motivation there in the morning, you know, before you start the day, you make this determination. I try to be a kind person today, you know, to appreciate whoever I encounter with a good heart and treat them as worthy living being, you know, and to discover their beauty, who they are, and enjoy. You see, if you look like that, like almost like this, you know, each being is so unique. And if you look them from the side of uniqueness, life becomes kind of fun. And there's a touch of humor. You know, even everybody has some nitty-gritty things. You know, from one side it looks so silly. You know, each one has his own little thing. But you know, if you look at with fun, with humor, it's so great. You know, you can enjoy it. You know, even people which for you look completely strange. You know, uptight with the high heels, or you know, kind of like that. You know, or costume, and the other person, the hippie in the street. You know, the diversity of human nature is so fantastic. You know, the individual tree, and it's almost like a play, like a theater. You know, you cannot take it too serious. You know, life is a drama. You know, it's kind of suddenly when you discover, if you look with the eyes of love, you know, something becomes funny about life. There's a touch of humor. You know, because the diversity, the uniqueness of people and of situations, the awkwardness of certain situations makes you just burst out laughing sometimes. You know, it's just funny. You know, life is funny. It's true. We make, you know, we make it so serious. You know, we put ourselves goals and aims and projects, and you know, we make life such a heavy trip. But in fact, it doesn't have to be like that. So if in the morning you decide, no matter what I'm doing, whoever I'm encountering today, I try to have a peaceful, kind mind, and whoever I encounter, if you make that determination, and that throughout the day, you always, when you have a break, you always bring that back to the forefront. That's my aim. That's my main goal, is to have a loving, kind heart, and then you use your wisdom to interact in a proper manner. Kind heart doesn't mean that people can take you by the nose and make with you whatever they want. That doesn't mean doesn't mean that, So you use your wisdom to act accordingly, to the situation. But your inner attitude, is to have respect and have a kind heart towards everybody. And if you do that, in the evening, actually you will see that you feel much less tired. Because this energy, this stress, this pressure on your mind, that makes us much more tired. The mental energy spent with this attraction aversion trip, that makes us much more tired, So if you have this kind heart, you get a lot of energy inside, And also, your self-image change, you start loving yourself, you start having respect for who you are, you start enjoying yourself, much more than before, So it's really a treasure if you can cultivate it, If you do that for 3 weeks, you will see the benefit, and you will come to thank me. Definitely, it's really worth. If you make that your practice of mindfulness, always bring back. So you write little notes in your car, you put little hearts here and there, whatever works for you, to generate that state of mind, and you train it with your kids, with your partner, your parents, at work, you make no discrimination. You try to have that attitude with everybody, So that's the 2 basic things that everybody can do. Then it goes deeper, Then you have to, if you want to go deeper to find permanent happiness, you have to understand the ultimate nature of things, how things really exist, who you are in reality. We have an image of ourselves. If you call Rene, yes, here I am. There's something here in me which says me, me. There's a self-image I have, which will react, right? I identify myself to a bubble of energy, which has memories, which went through certain experiences, which has which has a certain character. That's me, that bubble of energy, right? That's what I identify myself with, right? But that's a complete illusion, It's a complete illusion, It's something so superficial, so superficial. The true nature of our mind, of who we are, we are an ocean of bliss, we have no limits, We identify our being is something so small compared to who we really are, right? So this is you have to investigate, to look within, you have to have a certain, you see, by developing contentment and loving kindness, you start being able to sit peacefully, and by sitting peacefully with this loving kindness, you'll be able to see within who I am, what is reality, what is the body, what is the mind, what is the world, right? So from quantum physics, we know that the world is not as solid as it appears to our senses, right? So through meditation, you can go within deeper and deeper, and more deeper you go, more spacious things become, right? So your mind, your experience has no limit, The limits are there because of our ego, So, you see, the human potential goes much beyond just having a nice life and growing old and dying. You know, the potential in us is so amazing. You know, you can discover eternity in this life. You can get to a state of being where you know you're eternal, that you have no beginning, no end. You know, and that your mind is in a permanent state of bliss, right? And that all phenomena for you appear like rainbow energy. You know, things are not as solid as they appear. I don't know, some of you have been drunk from time to time, or taken some, you know, some forbidden substances, you know, which altered your state of mind, right? So you know that the way things appear to us depends on our mind. You know, that the world is not only one way out there, it's dependent on our mind, right? So if you change the vibration of your mind, you know, the way the world appears to you will change, right? So for an enlightened being here, he only sees blissful rainbow energy, right? Things are still the same form, same shape, but they are not as solid as they appear to us. Right? They're like rainbow energy. So you see, if you see it like everything has one taste, the nature of bliss. Everything has the taste of bliss. Right? There's no something pleasant, unpleasant and neutral. Everything is just bliss. Right? So that's the taste you discover when you go into the infinite small. You realize that everything is that taste, you know, of bliss. That things don't have any essence. The body doesn't have any essence, the mind, the I, and all phenomena are essencelessness. And in the essencelessness, they are one. You see? And there you start really enjoying life, you know, when you get to that level of experience. So meditation, you see, leads you to one door to another level, you know. But to start the journey, you have to realize that the ordinary life, you know, can only give you so much, and that you have to be satisfied with what the world can give you, but not expect more than what it can give, you know. And then use the rest of your energy and time, try to discover, you know, that enlightened nature that we have, you know, that nobody can take you away, you know. So, for example, as a conclusion, there's methods in Tibetan Buddhism, you know, where with this you can transform this gross body in a body of light, you know. Within this life you can make a transmutation. You can transform this gross body into a body of light, right? So within this life, you know, this human body gives us that capacity to create within this body a body of light. That when you die, you just leave this gross body with your body of light, and that body of light is eternal, right? So we have. This human body has an incredible potential to realize something we have never achieved before. Right? So the methods are there, the teachers are there. It's just a matter of ourselves having that interest, you know. So just to say, the human potential is just so amazing. You know, and we get satisfied with so little aim, so little goal, you know, that anyway we are going to lose when we die, you know. We get, how to say, excited and addicted to superficial pleasure and activity that at the time of death, you know, the only thing left on our mind will be the imprint of those habits, you know. So you see, when you die, you will be attached to your partner, attached to your children, attached to food, attached to music, attached to party, you know. So what will happen to your consciousness or to your soul or to whatever you want to call your being when you leave the body? You know, with all these imprints and habits, well, you want to come back, you know. So nobody pushes us to come back. We come back by ourselves, by our own attachments, you know. So more we have attachments, the quicker we come back. The less we have, the more freedom we have. You know, the more choices, the more alternative. Anyway, I think it's enough for tonight. So if you have any questions, you know, I'm happy. Yeah.
So you said that meditation, when you generate some type of thought that is like what, happy or better than before, then it's called meditation. So what if at the end of the day you've had a tough day, so then you process what happened, you're detangling the mess. You see that, oh, I superimpose all these angry, disgruntled thoughts on issues. It's my superimposition. And then you separate those judgments, and then you get down to actually, how did I feel? Before I didn't understand how I felt. Now I understand. I go, oh, so now I feel like I've untangled things. That's very satisfying. Now maybe from there you go to the point of generating a better feeling, but can we just stop there and call it and say, whew, that was a big mess, and then just rest on that and say, I call it a meditation? Or is that just not meditation?
I think it's already good if you do that, you know. It's very rare that actually we do that much, you know. So I think like in psychotherapy, you know, when you have had problem in your childhood, you know, then later in life the psychotherapists make you go through that experience again, you know, and then, you know, and to see it with the eyes of an adult, you know. So in the same way, you know, you have a hard time, you had a hard day, you know, things went wrong, you get upset, blah blah blah. So you see it again, but then you try to change it. You know, you don't leave it as that. You say, what if I would have reacted like that? Or you try to bring, you know, your kind heart into the picture. You change, you relive the day, but with in another way. You know, you try to change the situation of what has happened. You know, or if you could play that day again, how would you do it ideally? You know, how would you not get upset with that person, for example? You know, so that you change the habit, you know, there. So I think this is very helpful, you know, if one can do that. And then the other thing is to remember, you see, because you see, much of our, how to say, you know, as the year, you know, somebody just showed me a picture of a small baby, you know, and when we small, we enjoy life so much. We are so sparkling and bright, and you know, we enjoy, you know, as a kid we are so fresh and so new. And as life goes on, we become grayer and grayer. You know, life appears boredom. You know, the new experiences are exciting, and then we get bored with things. You know, life appears grey. You know, nothing excites us, nothing makes us really happy anymore. You know, so that state of mind comes about with the accumulation of undigested experience. You see, you don't clean. You see, it's like a hard disk which becomes fuller and fuller and fuller, and you are not able to take things in new anymore. You see through the filter of past boring experience. You know, so we are not able to stay fresh. You know, so what dissolves that is understanding emptiness. You see, what cleans your mind is your understanding of emptiness. You see, so if in the evening you can reflect a little bit that ultimately there's no I there from his own side, there's no body there from his own, there's no mind there from his own side. You know, so that cleans all that stuff. That, you see, all this stuff is able to accumulate because we believe there's something there which holds all that stuff. If you realize that there's nothing there, you know, it cleans, it dissolves all that stuff, all that accumulation. So that's really great if one can do it. And somehow it cleans the slate, and you are again able to experience people and situation in a new way. You know, otherwise you always see people and situation through the accumulation of experience you have had with those person. You know, so but people are new, are fresh. We have to give them a new chance. You know, if you always see your parents, relative, friend through the filter of all the things they did, the things you.